Hi everybody, Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio. I hope you're doing well. And this is the way that Hillary Clinton's campaign ends. Not with a bang, but a stagger and a feint. So this is from Fox News. A source in law enforcement has reported that Hillary Clinton has had a, quote, medical episode, unquote, that required her to leave a 9/11 commemoration ceremony early on Sunday. The Democratic presidential nominee appeared to faint on her way into her van and had to be helped by her security, the source says. She was, quote, clearly having some type of medical episode. An unverified video of the episode appears to show Clinton collapsing as she was helped into the van. She apparently lost a shoe. Secret Service had to be sent to get the shoe, and this was not great. Now, the article goes on to say, after more than an hour of radio silence, Clinton's campaign issued a statement saying the former Secretary of State, quote, felt overheated. This is Clinton spokesman Nick Merrill. He said, Secretary Clinton attended the September 11th commemoration ceremony for an hour and 30 minutes this morning to pay her respects and greet some of the families of the fallen. During the ceremony, she felt overheated, so departed to go to her daughter's apartment and is feeling much better. A witness told Fox News that Clinton stumbled off the curb, her, quote, knees buckled, end quote, and she lost a shoe as she was helped into a van during her, quote, unexpected early departure, end quote. The NYPD was sent to retrieve Clinton's shoe. Worst Cinderella story ever. After Clinton left the ceremony, the article states, the reporters following her on the campaign trail were prevented from leaving the media area for a period of time. Kind of corralled, kind of boxed in. And this, has got to be it. This has got to be it. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, how can this continue in any semblance of credibility? And this is it for so many things. I mean, in my view, this is basically it for anybody with an ounce of integrity with regards to the Clinton campaign for the White House in November. This is it for the media as a whole, the mainstream media. They have, as I've talked about before, and if other people, Paul Joseph Watson, Mike Cernovich, and others have talked about before, they have thrown absolutely everything in behind Hillary Clinton. They are burning the bridges of their credibility. They are torching any remnants of perceived objectivity in the pursuit of keeping Donald Trump out of the White House and his basket of deplorables and getting Hillary Clinton into the White House by any means necessary. The end justifying the means. Doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how obvious you are. It doesn't matter how partisan you appear. It doesn't matter how obviously you loathe Donald Trump. You are going to work every single one of your syllabalistic bellows to get Hillary Clinton into the White House. And it's pretty rough when you throw everything into one particular roll of the dice, and in this case, at least this morning, September 11th, 2016, well, it appears to, I guess in more ways than one, have come up snake eyes, that dice roll. This is a pivotal turning point, because let's play out the scenario and see what might happen in the future. So if it turns out that Hillary Clinton has some significant medical issues, and what was the temperature in the high 70s, maybe low 80s in New York? I don't know, maybe she wants to run for president of Iceland or Norway, where things are a little bit more climactically appropriate for her. But let's play this out. Let's say that it turns out that there are some significant medical issues that Hillary Clinton is struggling with. I sympathize with those. I sympathize with that. It's a very difficult situation to be in when you have the weight of the entire Democratic apparatus on your shoulders and you may be struggling with health issues. But if it turns out that there are significant health issues that Hillary Clinton is wrestling with, then it's like the West Wing. Then the question is who knew about it and when. And if people knew about it and didn't say anything about it, and if anyone in the media knew about it and didn't say anything about it, they're done. They are absolutely, completely, and totally done. I don't mean for people who are just going to vote Democratic no matter what. I don't mean for people who just want the continued drip, drip, drip of the government boob milk of taxpayer dollars going down their throat. I'm talking about anybody with any semblance of rationality, of objectivity, of skepticism, of basic human thought. They will be done because they will have all participated in this cover-up if it turns out that this is the case. Now, if she did have or does have significant medical issues, and it turns out that nobody knew, well, that is a big challenge. And what it shows, of course, is a certain lack of vetting in the process of picking Hillary Clinton, right? Because you hopefully would vet people. I mean, I remember when I was an executive in the software field, we had Keyman Insurance, which is, if I go down in a plane crash, then they need to have money to replace me. And I had full medical workup and lots of questions and all that kind of stuff. So if you're going to put someone into the field as a presidential candidate, I mean, good Lord, what a stressful and high degree of travel and a little sleep and maybe not so great food and all that. You want to vet people ahead of time. Now, either they vetted her and she was perfectly fine last year, or they didn't vet her, or they vetted her and she wasn't fine, but they decided to go ahead anyway because of the name recognition, the brand recognition, the Clinton juggernaut, so to speak. Okay, so if they didn't vet her, pretty irresponsible. If they vetted her and she was perfectly fine last year, despite the concussion that she suffered some years back, which her husband, Bill Clinton, said it took 6 months for her to recover from, and which can leave you with deficits, cognitive and physical. So either they vetted her and found nothing wrong, they vetted her and found something wrong, or they didn't vet her at all. And it seems unlikely to me, I'm certainly no doctor, but it seems unlikely to me that all of these deficits would accumulate so rapidly. And of course, even if she was perfectly fine last year, and her doctor's report that she was in excellent health is perfectly valid, as she began to stumble, as she began to lose energy, as she began to lose focus, as she began to cough, and so on, you'd think that people would try and figure out what the issue was. Now, either they did that or they didn't. If they did that and found there were still no issues, all right. If they did that and found there were issues but covered it up, not so good. And if they didn't do it at all, not so good. Then it's just their Gollum with the ring, right? It doesn't matter how sickly someone is. You just use them to get the power that you crave, right? The physical addiction of political power is stronger, as some studies have pointed out, than an addiction to cocaine or other highly addictive substances. So they're just using her Weekend at Bernie's candidacy. If that turns out to be the case, then they're just using her to get into power. And that is a pretty wretched thing. So all of the things that they've said about wanting to help the country, wanting to be good and so on, you don't help the country by putting somebody who may be significantly unwell into power. You don't help the country by withholding from voters essential information about a candidate's health. You don't help the country by covering up these things if a cover-up has occurred. That is not even remotely credible. There can be no good reason for that. There can be no honorable reason for that. There can be no decent reason for that. The only reason would be, well, we're stuck with this person. She may not be well, but let's not find out, or let's not let people know, because if we do, then that bars her chances of getting into the White House, makes us look terrible, and makes the mainstream media look entirely partisan. If it turns out that she is unwell, then what's called the alternative media, I guess alt control delete. That would be the approach that the alternative media has taken to the Clinton campaign. But the alternative media was the one that was raising these issues significantly in the past. And the fact that the mainstream media has pushed back against this as ridiculous conspiracy theorizing and so on, if it turns out that there is some validity to it, then what that means is that the mainstream media is going to be revealed in all of its partisan gory glory as a sort of Pravda 1984 style arm of cover-ups and shilling for the Democrats. Now, those of us who studied this issue for many years, I'm pretty much of that position anyway when it comes to the mainstream media, that that's what they're all about. But for a lot of other people, there is a semblance of objectivity and there is a semblance of a belief in nonpartisanship when it comes to the mainstream media. That is going to go completely out the window. And it is going to be a turning point when it comes to how we can best inform people about reality, about truth, about objectivity, about reasoning. And that is quite a thing. So the idea that we wouldn't ask any questions about Hillary's health going forward is incomprehensible. The stakes are just enormous. Can you imagine if she's tired during high-level stressful negotiations and confrontations with crazy leaders around the world, or even sane leaders around the world? She's tired, and as some people have reported, she needs naps on a fairly regular basis. Can you imagine the stress of the job, the challenges of the job, the massive amount of energy that you need for the job, and if you can't make it through a mourning ceremony on 9/11, when you know that people are questioning your health, when you know that the cameras are upon you, when you know that any particular fainting spell, any particular coughing spell, that is going to be interpreted as pretty disastrous. Everybody's looking to see if you make a medical stumble, so the stakes are very high. And, I would hope that a woman of Hillary's age would know how to dress appropriately for the weather. My daughter can figure out when she needs a jacket. She's 7. So if she doesn't know how to dress appropriately for the weather, well, I guess Hillary's judgment has been called into question to some degree, and that would be another example of that. So I think it's a significant turning point. I do think that my personal opinion is that there probably are some issues that are not being talked about. I have no idea, of course, who knows about them. I have no idea if they're real at all. It's just my particular opinion. And as things move forward, these questions are going to have to be answered. And these increasingly ridiculous, it was allergies when the pollen count was low. It was she felt overheated in high 70s weather in New York in September. These kinds of explanations are becoming increasingly non-credible, and keeping them up, to me, it starts to look like that kid with his mouth smeared with chocolate in his hand in the cookie jar saying, "I didn't have any cookies. What are you talking about? Why would you think that? Oh, look, a squirrel." So I think it is a turning point, and it is a turning point in the Clinton campaign. I believe it's a turning point with regards to the mainstream media, and soon I think that we will end up not with the mainstream media and the alternative media, but we will end up with the media that tells you the truth and the media that doesn't so much tell you the truth. And the old style of media that was the ideal, which was the media that digs in and speaks truth to power and opposes false narratives and is skeptical and invests in significant resources into digging up the truth against the wishes of those in power. I think that mantle has to some degree, if not to a large degree, passed from the mainstream media to what's called the alternative media. And again, I'll just put those labels out there. There's the media that's heavily invested in controlling the narrative, and then there's the media that gains its value from digging up and reporting on the actual facts. I will let you decide where you get your information from. I think I've made my case pretty clear. This is Stefan Molyneux for Freedomain Radio. Thank you so much for watching.